Darci got a recent change this season that made me think it could potentially become very strong. The change it received was actually the ability to apply jolt to enemies, which as most people know can scale and deal massive amounts of damage, as seen in builds like the Hunter Arc build I put out last season for GMs that's capable of 2-hitting champions. More specifically, the perk Target Acquired is what gained the ability to actually apply the jolt effect to enemies, and for this to work, all you need is Personal Assistant active. And Personal Assistant is always active if you are aiming at an enemy, so this is extremely easy to use as well. Starting off in this Lost Sector, Darci hits at base in the crit with Personal Assistant active for 27,115 damage, and as you're going to notice right away, whenever we hit a shot with Personal Assistant, the boss becomes jolted. After testing for a bit, looking for different damage numbers that Jolt hit for, I noticed the boss would either take 6,760 damage from Jolt or 7,436 damage. Not exactly sure why Jolt dealt different damage numbers, but I'm going to be using the larger Jolt value, which won't make too much of a difference overall. After testing on Cowley, just because it was easier, you can also see now that each crit is able to trigger the Jolt effect, which means every shot we shoot after the first will be dealing an additional 7,436 damage, essentially making our base shot hit for 34,551. Now I'm going to go over the DPS that this weapon deals across 3 mags, but before I do, boys, it finally happened. This video is officially sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. If you guys enjoy the Destiny grind and you want something to sink your teeth into even while on the go or on your own PC, Raid is a 100% free, turn-based MMO fighter with more content than you could probably touch in a year. Recently, Raid added a super cool new faction called the Sylvan Watchers with forest elves, scary looking tree spirits, and living rock monsters. There's loads of character variety within this faction, with each champion being in tune with nature in a cool and unique way. My personal favorite being Duden the Runic. My personal favorite part about Raid is how in-depth creating the perfect team can be. Not only can you build a team specifically around their abilities and roles, but each champion also has an affinity which they belong to, making them weaker or stronger when taking them against different champions too. Starting with 2023, you can hop into the brand new Season of the Forge to access brand new content. And in preparation for Raid's 4th anniversary later this year, this month sees the launch of the humongous 4th anniversary Titan event. And you can also play as Ronda Rousey because her legendary champion Ronda Chase was just released for free. All you have to do is play for 7 days between now and February 20th, and you can also use code RAIDRONDA to get some items to boost them up. If you guys haven't started playing Raid yet and you want to get started, now is the perfect time. Using the link in the description below or just scanning the QR code on screen gets you a free $30 worth of unique Raid goodies, including an epic champion to start with named Chinoru, along with 200k silver, 1 XP boost, 1 energy refill, and even an epic skill tome. All of this lasts for the next 30 days only for brand new players. Huge thanks to Raid for sponsoring the video. Let's get back into some DPS testing. Okay, so now looking over the time it takes to deal 3 mags worth of damage, just using a Luna faction well for near max reload speed, it's going to take us 12.48 seconds. And once again, this is going to be 21 total shots. And each shot is going to be capable of dealing enough damage to trigger Jolt. However, since Jolt only triggers once every 0.8 seconds at max, this is only going to trigger every other shot we take, meaning that Jolt should trigger and deal damage 11 total times, bringing our damage for this up to 651,000, which is around 52.2 thousand damage per second. And just for reference, with the lower Jolt damage value, this would come out to around 51.6 thousand damage per second, so a very low difference here. As far as heavy weapons go, this is extremely mid. For the total damage, it's next to awful, but the DPS is honestly not the worst and would probably be half decent for baking some weaker bosses. But I don't think that this means Darci is going to be completely useless. If you end up comparing the Jolt damage to the damage of the base crit shot that Darci hits for, Jolt ends up adding another 21.5% back to the Darci combo. But keep in mind that once Jolt is applied, anytime that the damage threshold is met, there is going to be an arc chain that deals damage. And this can be triggered every 0.8 seconds. On its own, Jolt also lasts 10 seconds, and with something like Darci, this is just going to constantly be reapplied every time we shoot, meaning that with a buff to Darci's damage or even a buff to Jolt, Darci could be considered a support weapon. I think this would definitely take a pretty large meta shift, but I definitely wouldn't write Darci off as something that will never be usable. Since Jolt does seem to scale off of the damage of the source that applies Jolt, an increase in sniper damage or Darci specifically would increase DPS. Just increasing the Jolt damage would also increase DPS and make this have a higher potential to be added as a support weapon, and increasing the rate that Jolt can be triggered and deal damage would also have the same effect. The last nice part about Jolt is that it does also count as weapon damage, so this is going to benefit from buffs that we use. When testing this with a Well of Radiance in a second test against Cali, we did see a 25% increase from the original Jolt value, where we were just testing the frequency of Jolt triggering. Let me know your thoughts on Darci in the comments below. I kind of miss using this thing back in the day against Insurrection Prime, and would personally love to see it in the meta again. We are also starting to speedrun Deepstone Crypt live on my Twitch. A link to that and my Discord server are both in the description below. Anyways, that's all for this video, guys. As always, have a good one. Peace.